Do you want to build a voice assistant that gives you real-time weather updates without writing any code? Well, in this video, I will show you how to build a powerful AI-driven voice assistant using Make.com, VAPI, and the OpenWeatherMap API. With this setup, you can ask for the weather updates and your assistant will respond instantly, all with a fully automated, no-code workflow. So before we begin, I want to show you the analytics of my YouTube channel. And as you can see, 90% of the viewers are currently not subscribed to the channel. So I would like to ask you guys, if you find this channel useful, it would be very helpful if you can subscribe to the channel and maybe like the videos if you find them useful. And this would help me tremendously and it would help the channel grow and it would help the channel reach more people like you. So going back to the video. So first things first, we need to basically register in this website, which is the openweathermap.org. And yeah, so this is needed because we want to get access to the API behind this website, which is going to be used by our VAPI assistant to query the API and get the weather updates. So basically, it's completely free to create an account on this website. And once you're inside the website, what you need to do is basically you need to generate an API key. So this will be the landing page once you sign in. And from here, you go to My API Keys, and then there will be an option right in front of you to generate a new API key. And once you press this button, then it's going to generate a new key for you. So I've already generated an API key, so I don't need to basically go and do the same thing again. And yeah, so once we have registered in the OpenWeatherMap website and we have generated an API key, the next step is to go to VAPI. So VAPI.ai is a website which lets you build voice AI agents, and it doesn't require any coding experience or any technical knowledge. So you can easily follow all the tutorials that are on the VAPI website, or you can basically watch this video and get to know how to build a voice agent very easily. So it is completely free to register on vapi.ai, and you're also going to get free credits every month. So I believe that you get around 1,000 minutes worth of AI conversations per month. And yeah, this resets every month, so you can experiment before you actually create a production-like system. And yeah, so once you have registered, you can basically sign in to vapi.com, sorry, not vapi.com, but vapi.ai. And from here, you will see that the menu is on the left-hand side, and you can see how many free minutes you've got and how many minutes you have used so far. And what we want to do is we want to create a new assistant, which is going to be our voice AI assistant. And how do you do this? So you select the assistants menu on the left. So you click on that. And yeah, so from here, you can click on this button, create assistant. And it's going to ask you to give a name to this assistant. So let's say uh, weather assistant demo. Okay, let's spell this correctly. And we're going to pick a blank template. As you can see, there's quite a lot of predefined templates depending on the voice assistant that you want to build. So yeah, in our case, we're going to pick this blank template and then we're going to press this button to create the assistant. And yeah, so as you can see, it's created the assistant for us. So from the first tab, you can select what model you want to use from like any LLM that you want to use. So by default, it selects OpenAI and the GPT-4o model. From here, you can select basically any kind of language model that you want. And yeah, so for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use the OpenAI's 4.0 mini model. So let's just go and find this. So yeah, so GPT 4.0 mini. And in here, what we want to do is basically we want to change the message. So let's say the first message when we call the assistant or when we speak to the assistant, let's say it's going to say, "My name is Jessica. How can I assist you today?" And then for the system prompt, since we want to build weather updates assistant, so what we can say is your weather assistant and you provide updates about the weather based on a given location. And yeah, so this is more or less basically the knowledge base for our model. So we've given it a first message, we've given it a system prompt, we've provided an LLM, which is OpenAI. Then we have selected the model. And then the next step would be to select voice. So basically, there's a lot of predefined voices which you can choose from. And there's different voice providers in here. So I'll use the basically VAPI as the provider. And then from here, I will select Savannah. So as you can see, it tells you exactly how basically where this person is coming from and what kind of accent they might have. Yeah, so once we have picked voice, then we can go to functions. And this is where we need to basically define a new function so that our AI assistant is going to process the location that we're going to share with them. And then it's going to basically query make.com. And then make.com is going to trigger the workflow and get the response back from the Open Weather API. So let's make things simple. So let's just publish our work so that it's saved because I've noticed that if you don't publish your work regularly, if the website crashes or if you accidentally close the tab, then you basically need to start from scratch. And yeah, so let's go ahead and create a new tool. And yeah, so let's click on create a new tool. It's going to be a function and let's give it a name. So let's say get today's weather. And then the description is so the description is going to be get the current weather for the provided location. So the description is very important because the voice assistant is going to use AI to determine which tool or which function to use behind the scenes. And say if you have like multiple step conversation or a complex conversation that involves many different steps, then you need to be very precise and very concrete in defining the description. Otherwise, the assistant wouldn't know which tool or which function to use. So you need to be as descriptive as possible so that it makes the assistant's processing smooth and correct. So we have the tool name, we provided description, and now we need to define a parameter. So the parameter is going to be the location that we provide when we speak to the assistant. So let's say this is going to be location. It's going to be of type string because this is like text. And let's save this. And yes, so the next step would be to define some server settings. So what this means is basically when the assistant receives a location, say London, for example, and basically what is going to happen is the assistant is going to call this function behind the scenes, get today's weather, and so the server URL is going to be the endpoint which the assistant is going to call and get the data back. So in our case, we're going to use make.com, and we need to basically create a webhook. And this server URL is going to be the webhook. So let's go to make.com. So make.com is used for creating automations without writing any code. If you don't have an account with make.com, you can click on the link down below in the description and you can sign up. It's completely free, and basically you get a lot of free credits every month, similar to VAPI. Every month you get certain amount of operations which you can perform for free. And once you have signed up, you will see your basically landing dashboard, and you can see that you have 1000 free operations which you can perform every month. And yeah, so from here, what we want to do is we want to define a new scenario. So you can think of scenario as workflow or automation. And from here, you click on this button, which is create new scenario, and you just give it some time. So let's call it weather assistant demo. And yeah, so just as I said before, we need to define a webhook, which is going to be a custom webhook. So let's see. So this is, yeah, so we need to choose the second option, which is this one. It triggers when the webhook receives data. And yeah, so let's create the webhook. Let's call it receive location name, and let's click on save. And this is our webhook. So if we copy this URL, actually let's do this. Let's press this button, copy address to clipboard. And now we need to go to VAPI, and we need to paste this URL here. And once we've done that, we can actually save this function or this tool. And yeah, so now if we go back to our assistant, which is weather assistant demo, and now we go to functions, and then from here we can select the function that we just defined, which is get today's weather. And yeah, so once we have this, we can actually publish the assistant, so we can save our work so far. And I think one last thing that we need to do in vapi.com is to define our OpenAI key, because you know we're using the GPT-4o mini model, and it's going to basically query OpenAI behind the scenes. So what you need to do is you need to go to the menu and you need to select provider keys, and then from here you can search for OpenAI. And as you can see, there is a section where you can enter your API key. And once you enter this, you can click on save, which will be displayed on the screen. And yeah, so that's pretty much it when it comes to VAPI. So now we need to go back to make.com and basically define a few more steps or a few more functions in the pipeline. So now we have this webhook, which is going to receive data from VAPI when we speak to our assistant. And what we need to do next is basically let's create a new tool, which is going to be set variable. and the variable name will be location. So let's just quickly run our VAPI assistant so we can publish some data to this webhook, and then basically we're going to map the location to a variable so that it's easy for us to refer to the variable later on and get the location. Because VAPI is going to publish a lot of data to this webhook and we're just interested in the location. So let's do this. So how do we test our voice assistant? So you go back to vapi.com and you select your assistant. In our case, it's Weather Assistant Demo. And from here, you go to basically you press this button, which is talk to the assistant or talk with the assistant. So let's click on this and see what happens. And we know that our make.com webhook is actually waiting for some data. So we're going to see how the data looks in a moment.
My name is Jessica. How can I assist you today?
What is the weather in London?
One moment.
Okay, so if we go back to make.com, you can see that we successfully sent data to this webhook, and it says here successfully determined the data structure. So let's save this. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to go to tools again and we can define our variable. So let's give the variable name location, and from here we need to select basically the field which we want to assign to this variable. So you can see we have this message object, and from here we need to go to tool calls, then we go to function, arguments, and then you can see we have something called location. So this is the parameter which we defined in vapi.com. And now we're going to map this to a variable called location. And this is going to be the actual location which the user has specified when talking to the assistant. And if we click on save, so this will be saved, and now the next step would be to use this location and actually query the OpenWeatherMap API. So let's do this. So make a request. We're going to do a GET request. And yes, so let me just copy the URL which we need for the OpenWeatherMap API. So this is the URL which we're going to use for the OpenWeatherMap API to query and get the weather information. So what you need to do is you can see that this is my API key. So you need to replace this API key with the API key that you generated from your account. And we also need to provide the location, because now you can see we just have the API key and also we've provided the units. So when we set the units to metric, what this means is it's going to get the temperature in Celsius. I think by default it's going to give you the temperature using Fahrenheit, and yeah, you can read the documentation about OpenWeatherMap, and yeah, you can basically understand how it works. But yeah, so basically we provide an application ID, which is the API key if you want to provide units, and finally we need to provide the location. So since the location is dynamically provided, what we can do is we can basically add a parameter here, which is going to be, let's see, it's going to be called Q. So Q stands for query, and this is basically how the API works, the Open Weather API works. And the value will be the location, which is the variable that we defined just a moment ago. And yeah, we can save this. And next, what we need to do is we need to parse the response. So what we need to do is basically we need to parse the JSON response. So in here, what we want to do is basically, let's say we want to get the data from here. because the data object is going to contain the response from the API that we have called. And yeah, so after this, we need to add some rounding, because I've noticed when you call the weather API, if basically the temperature is not a round number, it's going to say, okay, say for example, the temperature is going to be 7.25 degrees. And I guess we're not interested into the floating point numbers, so we can just round the number using the inbuilt math module. And from here, what we can say is we can basically round the number. I think we probably need to run the program at this stage, because you can see it doesn't have access to basically the data at this stage. So let's go back to VAPI and just call the assistant again.
My name is Jessica. How can I assist you today?
What is the weather in London?
One moment.
Okay, so let's go back and see how our data looks. So you can see that we successfully called the webhook. We successfully assigned a variable. You can see now the variable name location is set to London. This is exactly the location that we said during the call with the agent. After this, we made a request to the OpenWeatherMap API, and you can see we got status 200, which means that this was a success. And you can see we got data back. So we got not only the temperature, but we got a lot more things which you can look at and play with. And after this, we parsed the response. So we parsed this data object. And now the output is like an object, which is a dictionary, and it's easy to basically get each and every attribute that we need. So now we have this math object, and in here, what we want to do is, let's see. So from here, you can see now from the JSON object, we have a lot more data that we can play with. And yeah, as I was saying before, you see the temperature is 15.13, and we don't want the assistant to say this. We want the assistant to say that the temperature is 15 rather than using floating point numbers. And yeah, so let's select this field, click on save. And yes, so let's see, why is it complaining? Yeah, it's complaining because yeah, we didn't define this previously. Okay, and yeah, so the final step is to actually return this data. So let's create a response. The body of the response should contain like data in different format. So let's go ahead and define this. So it's going to be a dictionary, and this dictionary is going to contain results entry, and then this will be a list. So basically, we need to return data in the format that VAPI is familiar with. So in here, what we want to define is another dictionary. And yes, so what we need to define next is the tool call ID. So, okay, we need to set this shortly, and then we need to define the actual temperature after this, which will be result. So this will be the result. Okay, let's just select it. Don't forget to surround this in quotes, because this should be a string. And now what we need to do is we basically need to find the tool call ID. So if we go to tool call and then tool calls actually, and then select ID, So now I think we have everything with regards to the response. So we defined a results entry, which is a list. And then in here we've got tool call ID, which is set to the tool calls ID. And then the result is the temperature, which we got from the previous step. So let's save this. And yeah, let's run it again. And yeah, let's go back to VAPI, call the assistant, and see what happens.
My name is Jessica. How can I assist you today?
What is the weather in London?
The current weather in London is 14 degrees. If you need more details or a forecast, just let me know.
How about the weather in New York?
Hold on a sec. The current weather in New York is 7 degrees. If you need more information or updates, just let me know.
Thank you. Bye bye. And this is pretty much the end of this tutorial. So now you can see that we created a fully fledged AI voice assistant, which is basically capable of responding to the user queries and getting weather specific information about any city or any location around the world. So you can play around with this and you can take it to the next level by deploying this voice agent to a website, or you can actually make this available when you call a number, like a phone number. So I'm going to create more tutorials about how to deploy this on your website, and I guess I will create another tutorial which will be on how to deploy this agent behind a phone number. So whenever you call a phone number, then you can basically speak to the voice agent. If you found this video useful, please like it, subscribe to the channel. If you want to get full access to the template behind this video and any of my previous videos, you can sign up to my school community. The link should be down below in the description. It's completely free and you don't need to pay anything. Thank you very much for your time and see you in the next video.